Their seats, we're going to begin. Good. Okay, welcome to Temple Emmanuel and the AAUW and Temple Emmanuel Social Action Committee's Forum for County Commissioners. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to introduce the rabbi, Rabbi Koren. He's going to say some words.
Thanks, Catherine, and thank you to everybody who made this evening possible. So let me just echo the welcomes. We're really glad you're here this evening. As Catherine said, I'm the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel, the senior rabbi. My name is Andy Koren, and just a little bit about us. We are the oldest synagogue in Greensboro. We were founded 117 years ago. The building that you're in was designed to house the many functions of our Jewish community. It was built also to house civic gatherings, just like the one that we are honored to host this evening, in particular as we focus on the County Commission. Our congregation, Temple Emmanuel, is part of Judaism's reform movement. For centuries, we have been the voice of what is called informed choice. Informed choice is how we approach our religious commitments. Informed choice in civic affairs is truly at the heart of tonight's forum. So, without any further delay, and with tremendous gratitude to everyone who made tonight's program possible, let me again welcome you as our program is beginning.
Okay, so first let me say thank you so much for coming. This event is a nonpartisan forum, and we're thrilled to have some very important people here that I just want to recognize. First, the chair of the Republican Party is here, Chris Meadows, and if you would just like... And Julene Valatuto, who is the president of the Republican Women's Club. And I have regards from the chair of the Democratic Party, Kathy Kirkpatrick, whose mother is in hospice care, and she had to be with her tonight, so she sends her regrets. Next, I'd like to say this is thrilling to have you once again here. And Bill is going to read the rules of the forum. I'm going to get out of the way as fast as possible, but I want to introduce to you all the candidates that are here today. And there's a few other candidates that are here that are not on the list, and I'll recognize them as well. So we'll start with County Commissioner Mary Beth Murphy. And her opponent, Tony Ciccobelli. Did I mess that up? Okay. Both running for District 4. Now, in District 5, we have the Republican candidate, Reese Walker, was not able to be here as a fireman, and he had to be on call this evening. So we'll just applaud him in extension. But we have Guilford County Commissioner Carly Cook, who's here as well. And that is for District 5. And so Carly will be sitting in the audience like, who was it the last time? Joe Perotti, who his opponent didn't attend, and he sat in the audience. And we're glad that you're here again, Joe. Just raise your hand so we can applaud you. In addition, we have Brandon Gray Hill, who is the County Commissioner for District 6. And his opponent, Maritza Gomez. And we're very fortunate to have the chair of the County Commissioners, Skip Alston, who is District 8 and is unopposed. All right. So thank you so much. And now I'll introduce Bill O'Neill, who has been doing this, been our moderator. This is the 5th time that he has done it. And we are thrilled to have you again. And this time we have less candidates, but longer questions.
Good evening, everyone. I better make this a little bit taller for Catherine's sake, if I could. My job is to read the directions that we will follow tonight. There will be no questions submitted by the audience. There will be no opening statement by the candidates. There will be no closing statement by the candidates. The same questions will be asked of each of the 2 candidates, repeated again, giving each an opportunity to respond. Candidates will have 2 minutes for responses. Each candidate has been advised of the final question in advance and will have 2 minutes to answer. The County Commission candidates will come up to the stage and answer questions in alphabetical order and then reversing the order. The timekeeper will be positioned in the front and center of the audience and will display signs indicating 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. A smartphone will be used to keep time. If the candidate continues to speak after the stop sign is displayed, the moderator will announce that the time is up and move on to the next question. All right, so we move on here. Let's begin with the candidates by coming up. By the way, this event is being live streamed, and it will last approximately 90 minutes. The questions have all been written by a group of Public Policy Committee members and Greensboro residents. Let us begin. The first question will be to Mary Beth Murphy. This week, state lawmakers approved a mini budget. It includes $463 million more for private school vouchers and $95 million for public school enrollment growth. But no dollars for teachers. Their small raise was previously built into a 2-year budget that was adopted in 2023. And no dollars for expansion of social services to help our homeless population. In an election year where the words, quote, tax increase will not be mentioned, what is the answer? How do these critical services get addressed?
Thank you so much. I'm a little short here if I can slide it. Can you guys hear me okay? Fantastic, thank you. So a couple of things. For those of you who don't know, I am a high school teacher. I've spent 19 years in the classroom, and so the issues facing public education are facing me in the most intimate of ways. In addition, I'm married to a public educator, and I've raised my 2 children in public schools. And so seeing $463 million of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars go to private schools is absolutely devastating. It's devastating to my students, it's devastating to my colleagues, and it continues to rob public schools of a necessary investment. The General Assembly is required to fund public schools and to see our public dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars, siphoned away to private schools that are unaccountable for their actions, for their curriculum, that can turn students away and don't have to serve all students is frankly unacceptable. And it continues to starve a system that is desperate for the investment that our community deserves and that all students across our state deserve. It is in fact a constitutional requirement. I unfortunately did not get much of a raise as an educator as a result of the struggling, failing investment in public education coming out of Raleigh. That has personally impacted my family as well. And so we have to do something different. I think we have a couple of opportunities. First and foremost, our board since 2020 has prioritized using our local dollars to improve investment in public education where the state has failed in its responsibility. We cannot, however, continue to stand in that gap. The gap is much too wide, the need is too great, and we're gonna have to find a different approach. The different approach that we're proposing presently is to ask voters to approve a 1/4-cent sales tax increase, and that is a fraction of a penny increase. It would raise your cost on things like meals you purchase out at a restaurant or shopping at Friendly Center by just a few cents on $100. The impact, however, could be significant, and so we have a plan that we can enact to help stand in that gap and support an adequate investment in
Ms.
public
Murphy,
schools.
thank you very much. Our next question is for you, Mr. Giacobelli. This week, state lawmakers approved a mini budget that includes $463 million. That is more for private school vouchers, as well as $95 million for public school enrollment growth. There is no dollars for teachers. Their small raise previously built into a 2-year budget that was adopted in 2023. No dollars for expansion of social services to help with the homeless population. In an election year where the words, quote, tax increase will not be mentioned, what is the answer? How do these critical services get addressed?
I was a professional engineer for over 30 years. We worked on things that didn't work, needed improved, needed to be more efficient. And I've spent 30 years designing, building, improving things that didn't work properly. I have no problem digging into something that is not efficient. Our school system budget, I think, is not very efficient. They've gotten over 50% of the Guilford County budget goes to the school system. 80% of the school budget is paid to salaries and benefits. I think that's pretty adequate. If we've got issues with wasteful programs within the school, free lunches that get thrown in a trash can, tutoring that doesn't get utilized, there's a lot of programs that the school uses that could be improved upon. I'm not for cutting out necessary and efficient programs in the school district. I've been in a public education myself for over 20 years. I've never attended a private school. I went to public universities. I didn't need a lot of taxpayer support to help me do what I am supposed to do as a student. I think the teachers probably should get a little bit more pay when they've been around for a little while to keep them motivated to keep getting better. And I got no problem with the teachers. It's the inefficiency of the school system. And that can be looked at and dug into and resolved with some effort.
Thank you, sir. We're going to start question 2, and Mr. Giacobelli, you will begin. The city of Greensboro has created 2 public safety services, the Behavior Health Response Team, who ride with the police, providing on-scene resident crisis behavior relief, as well as the civilian traffic investigators. They respond and write up car accident reports for police. They seem to be alleviating demands for our police resources. What areas could be considered by the county for similar services? Or how could the county create similar programs? And which areas should be addressed?
Well, I am not part of the sheriff's department or the police department, although I have been endorsed by the Greensboro Police Officers Association, because I did have a long, detailed discussion with them about things I would pursue to improve the homeless situation, the social programs in the city and county that aren't working, the accountability of the money that's going into these programs. A lot of things need to be looked at. I don't have a detailed plan in place because I have not been asked to go improve these programs. And I have no doubt that I could have a positive impact, have more accountability, have results that can be recorded. Individual names probably should be kept track of and to record where they are progressing throughout these social programs. Somebody that's stuck in square A and stays there forever is not an efficient use of social programs. We need to get them from A to B to C and then get them independent and self-sufficient. I am not for continuing to put more money into social programs that don't work. I want them to work. I want people to get the help they need when they need it, but not a lifestyle. That's all.
Thank you. And for you, Ms. Murray, the city of Greensboro has created 2 public safety services, the Behavior Health Response Team. who ride with the police providing on-scene resident crisis behavior relief, and the civilian traffic investigators who respond and write up car accident reports for police. They seem to be alleviating demands for our police resources. What areas could be considered by the county for similar services? Or how could the county create similar programs? Which areas should be addressed?
Thank you. First, I just wanted to let you know my last name is Murphy and not Murray.
I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you. Just wanted to clear that up before we continued. No problem. Oh, okay.
I apologize.
Well,
I
thank
thought when
you.
you introduced yourself, you said Murphy, but I saw here it said Murray.
Oh, all good, all good. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, the county is already involved, which is fantastic. We have EMS folks embedded in the BHEART team. The BHEART team, for those of you who don't know, is a behavioral response team dispatched by 911 when folks are having a mental health crisis. What we know is that many years ago, we learned that through best practice with mental health counselors and providers was not to keep people who are in severe mental illness locked up in asylums and hospitals. Unfortunately, as we began to terminate those programs, what we didn't see happen across our community was a shift in how we responded in offering mental health services. What has happened as a result is that we are now, much like 100 years ago, looking to law enforcement to respond when a person is in a mental health crisis. That is a failure not of a person in the criminal legal system, but rather a failure of our healthcare system. We have a responsibility to help people have access to care, including mental health care. And so the BHEART response team is critical because it is doing that. It is providing people with the support that they need when they're in crisis and not sending law enforcement to manage a criminal legal response for a person who's having a healthcare crisis. I think that we need to look to expand BHEART. It is a program that is research-based, that is evidence-based, and that is working. And we know that there are more people in crisis in our community, and we need to get them connected to care. The county is doing that through our Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center, which we recently opened, in addition to taking steps to do things like coordinate services across the entire system of users. The county has committed ARPA dollars to building something called an integrated service delivery system so that we can, in fact, as my opponent mentioned, track people as they enter the system and help them manage and navigate it to ensure that they're connected to the services that they need. So we are committed to doing that and have committed dollars and are in the process. But further, we've engaged in a process called SIM mapping. And that process is...
I'm sorry, Ms. Murphy, your time is up. We will begin question number 3 with you, Ms. Murphy.
Sure.
Guilford County schools are comprised of 124 elementary, middle, and high schools. Our current model has resulted in teacher turnover, failed city programs, growing charter schools, growing private schools, all of which are pulling students and funds out of the system. Other states employ different models compared to our consolidation model, that is, all schools under one umbrella, that we adopted 50+ years ago. Are you a proponent of examining a change to the consolidated model?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for it. It's not one that I had previously considered. I do think that there are pluses and minuses to having a big system. What we know is that the reason for the consolidated model was to address disparate outcomes across our community. In many states around the country, school boards are taxing entities. They have taxing authority. They set the tax rate and collect the taxes for the rate that they set on property, and then they pass a budget using their taxing authority. That is not a system we have in North Carolina. In fact, we're only one of about 7 states around the country that have the system that we have. With the school board not having taxing authority, it creates some challenges. And what that means is that if we rely on property tax, as we do in North Carolina, that communities which have lower property values, we can look to historical choices our communities made around things like redlining, which have disadvantaged certain communities of color, for example. And if we rely only on property tax, then what we know is that some schools are going to be underfunded based on historic choices that have been made in our community and across our country. That's problematic. We have a constitutional responsibility to give all students a sound basic public education. And the zip code that you live in shouldn't be a determining factor in whether your school is well funded or not. And so while it can be challenging to manage 124 schools and to be in the 50th largest school district in the nation, what it also means is that we can fight for equitable outcomes for all students. We can meet our constitutional responsibility to provide a sound basic education to all students, regardless of their zip code, regardless of whether they come from a community that was once redlined and therefore continues to struggle with property values, and that's important. Okay, what's important is that every kid gets what they need and the education that they deserve. And so while I hear that there are some challenges perhaps facing us as we navigate managing such a large system, I think that that system is critical to ensure that every kid gets the education that they are owed according to our state constitution. So I don't think that I could find myself in support of a model that reverts us back. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Giacobelli, Guilford County Schools comprised of 124 elementary, middle, and high schools. Our current model has resulted in teacher turnover, failed city programs, growing charter schools, growing private schools, all of which are pulling students and funds out of the system. Other states employ different models compared to our consolidation model, that is, all schools under one umbrella that we adopted 50-plus years ago. Are you a proponent of examining a change to the consolidated model?
Parents want a good education for their kids, period. It really doesn't matter where it comes from, but they need a good education, and that is basically, like my opponent said, constitutionally granted. Charter schools, private schools, whatever you want to call it, if they provide a better opportunity for the students, parents should be able to send their kids there with the same amount of resources that are given to students that go to public schools. If the public schools weren't failing at almost 50% rate and the end of grade testing wasn't failing about 50% as well, I don't think there would be a need for charter or private schools anywhere. But that's the case. They're not getting a good education. It's not because of the teachers, it's because of the inefficiency and the lack of accountability on where that money is going in the school system. I don't see why anyone would deny a parent the opportunity to get the best education their kid can get. And if the state's going to help support that, we should be behind that as parents. I'm not looking to maintain a monopoly on the education system. It shouldn't be a monopoly on the education system. It should be a competitive environment that would cause all of the entities to improve, including the public school system.
Thank you, sir. Our fourth and final question will begin with you, Mr. Giacobelli. What differentiates you from your opponent? And if you would, talk about yourself.
As I mentioned earlier, I spent my whole career as an engineer, designing things that worked, fixing things that didn't work, and improving things that do work. We did that with products, we did that with processes. There's no reason a lot of what is going wrong with Guilford County can't be looked at from an engineering perspective and improved upon. I don't care what it is, it can be improved upon. Nothing we do is perfect. And if we want to stop increasing property taxes and increasing the county budgets, increasing rent for everybody, increasing food prices, all the inflation it's just driving everything to be less and less affordable for everyone, we need to have a more efficient set of departments and processes at social programs, education, law enforcement. There's endless numbers of opportunity to improve where the money goes in this county. And I am all for digging in, rolling up my sleeves, looking at the specific projects and programs that need improving, and putting forth intelligent, rational solutions to any of those problems. And I'm looking forward to being held accountable to do that. Thank you.
And Ms. Murphy, what differentiates you from your opponent? And if you would, speak about yourself.
Yes. First of all, I just want to take a minute to say thank you to Temple Emmanuel's Social Action Committee and the Greensboro branch of the American Association of University Women for organizing and hosting tonight's forum. Thank you also to Bill O'Neill for being our moderator for the event. You'll see in my campaign materials that you find out in the lobby, I hope you'll take a minute to check them out, a phrase, connected to all of us, committed to all of us. I chose these words because at their core they represent exactly who I am and my values. At the heart of the idea of being connected to community and to all people is, at the heart of the idea of being connected and committed to all people is the idea of community. I have lived my entire adult life in service to my community. Whether that was in my classroom or as a coach of a school or community sports team, I have dedicated my life to serving others and to building community where all people feel welcome and included and believe and know that they can thrive. In my classroom over the last 19 years, my students and their families know that not only will they be successful and held to high expectations, but that they will be welcomed and treated with respect. On teams that I've coached, my athletes know that I'm there for all of them regardless of their skill level or their readiness, and they have all thrived. And since being elected to the Board of Commissioners in 2020, I've continued to demonstrate my commitment to building a community where all are welcomed and can thrive. Public schools have often been described as the great equalizer in our community, a place where all children are welcome to come and to learn and to have their needs met, and I have stood on that truth time and again in my support for public education. Whether it be through school bonds or increases in operating costs to meet the needs of Guilford County schools, staff, and students, I know that public education is the backbone of a strong community. I've supported bringing new companies to Guilford County that offer the opportunity for people to earn a living wage and be paid what they deserve for their hard work. And
thank you,
I will
Ms. Murphy.
continue to do that when re-elected to the board.
Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
ends our County Commission District 4 debate. Please join me in thanking the candidates. And if Mr. Grayhill and Ms. Gomez would come on up. Hi, how are you?
Good. Mrs. Gomez is fine.
Is it? I'll go whatever you like.
Mrs. is good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Brandon. Good to see you. Thank you.
Our first question will begin with you, Mr. Hill. One of Guilford County Commissioners' 2024 goal is to get the homeless off the streets before it turns cold. They have undertaken multiple major endeavors to address this problem. In 2022, they allocated $8 million from the American Rescue Plan Act funding to the Guilford County Housing and Homelessness Task Force. It was charged with identifying initiatives to address housing instability and other issues leading to homelessness. In 2023, they allocated $3 million from the American Rescue Plan, funding the Women with Children Recovery Center, which will accommodate 28 women. And this year, they purchased a former nursing home to convert for the homeless. After 2 years and $11 million, what is prepared for this winter? What are the bottlenecks, and what is really necessary to tackle the problem? Mr. Hill.
Thank you. So I've been a commissioner for about a year now, and the first committee that I served on was the Homelessness Task Force Committee. Jumped right in my week after being sworn in, actually. And just the Homelessness Task Force is a collaborative approach that we have here in Guilford that really brings in our other municipalities, such as Greensboro and High Point, to address the homelessness problem that we have here in Guilford. And I'm proud of the work that we were able to do, especially focusing on emergency shelter. We were able to get folks off the street in the freezing cold weather when we had the white flags, which we were also able to lower the temperature. It used to be, I believe, 35 degrees for folks to be able to get off the streets and in emergency shelters. And I don't know about you, but 35 degrees if you were outside would be too cold for you to be able to sleep through the night. So being able to up the temperature, to get folks off the street was another important thing that I was glad we were able to do on the homelessness task force. Another thing I recently toured with Congresswoman Kathy Manning is the Servant Center, which is going to house homeless veterans. The county contributed $500,000 to that, another collaborative effort with the city of Greensboro, as well as federal funds. And this is a facility that will really help our veterans that are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. And it is the first of its kind in Guilford, and will also be able to serve men and women because each room will have their own bathroom. So I look forward to continuing to serve on the homelessness task force. This is something that I'm passionate about, getting folks off the street and into permanent solutions.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Gomez, one of the Guilford County Commissioner's 2024 goal is to get the homeless off the streets before it turns cold. They have undertaken multiple major endeavors to address this problem. In 2022, they allocated $8 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, funding the Guilford County Housing and Homelessness Task Force that is charged with identifying initiatives to address housing instability and other issues leading to homelessness. In 2023, they allocated $3 million from the American Rescue Plan, funding the Women with Children Recovery Center, which will accommodate 28 women. And this year, they have purchased a former nursing home to convert for the homeless. After 2 years and $11 million, what is prepared for this winter? What are the bottlenecks, and what is really necessary to tackle this problem?
Well, good evening. First of all, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm well-versed on the bottlenecks and the needs. As a resident of Guilford County, as a taxpayer, as a mom with a heart for people, I think the government is already stretched too thin. The resources are stretched too thin. I believe that as commissioners, we should partner with the private sector. There are a lot of organizations, the Hero Center, Elks Lodge, what was the other one I was thinking? Hold on, I wrote it down. Churches, of course. So I think if we partner with the private sector and not leave it just on the government, I think that we're able to accomplish more. Again, I'm not versed on the amounts, the bottlenecks, the needs. All I know is that if you ask me this question as a common sense person, I could tell you that the government can only do so much, and we need to partner with the private sector, with people that are in those. One of the churches I used to go to, Out of the Garden Project, for feeding people. So there has to be other private sector organizations that can partner with us, that we can help get these people off the streets.
Question number 2, we're going to begin with you, Mrs. Gomez. School officials maintain that the $2 billion in bond money that county voters have approved will be used to build schools and handle major repair projects. But it cannot be used for things like fixing plumbing or repairing a broken window. Only $48 million of that bond money has been used. What is the delay, and why aren't things being addressed quicker?
Bureaucracy and red tape. I mean, I'm not on the board, but when you pass a $2 billion bond and the stuff isn't getting done, it's because there's too much bureaucracy. There's too much red tape. Again, government resources. There has to be accountability. I believe that if they pass the bond and they said, hey, this is what we're going to use it for, then that's what they should use it for. And I think that there should be some type of meeting or some type of something where people are accountable and the citizens can ask, hey, what did you use the money for? One of my first questions would be, why can't you use part of that money for the schools? Like, I don't understand as a taxpayer. Again, I'm not a government official, not yet, but my first question would be, why can't you use that money for what you said you were going to use it? So I would say the delays are bureaucracy and red tape, and that has to be overhauled, that has to be visited and changed, because if something doesn't work, you change it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Thank you. Brandon Grayhill, school officials maintain that $2 billion in bond money that county voters have approved will be used to build schools and handle major repair projects. But it cannot be used for things like fixing a plumbing problem or repairing a broken window. Only $48 million of that bond has been used. What is the delay, and why aren't things being addressed quicker?
I think we're going as quick as we can. We've also seen production delays. We were in a pandemic. It's hard to get the things that you need to build our schools. We're bringing our schools up into the 21st century. As someone who went to Guilford County Schools and also GTCC, I've seen the effects, and our schools desperately needed this $2 billion school bond, and I'm grateful that the voters passed this $2 billion school bond. I think what we're doing right now is exactly what we should be, and $500 million of it will be used for deferred maintenance.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to question number 3, and this one, Mr. Grayhill, we will start with you. The county has a mental health crisis facility on Maple Street. It covers many services, including food stamps. They don't have any mental health crisis prevention for resident in-home visits and for people living downtown on the street and in the park, preventing the enjoyment for citizen use. The City of Greensboro has the behavioral health response team that has been specially trained to handle incidents involving persons with mental illness and those in crisis with care and expertise, ensuring such persons receive appropriate responses in daily incidents. Downtown Greensboro, Inc. has an ambassadors program that helps the unsheltered and mentally ill on the street as well. Is it time for the county budget to include daily incident on the street services as well? And as a county commissioner, would this be under your jurisdiction? What are your thoughts?
I think with the homelessness task force, that's something that we do focus on a little bit with the mental health crisis. And I think it also goes to show that here in North Carolina, we haven't prioritized mental health or really health care. And we see the effects of that on our streets. And continuing to fund these social services here in Guilford County, I think that's how, as a commissioner, we can lift up our community and our most vulnerable. And I think BHeart is a great thing that the city of Greensboro has. I would be interested to see if the county would like to collaborate with that, because collaboration is really how we can move Guilford County and be one Guilford. So it's something I would be interested in looking at, because I really feel for that community, which seems to be villainized a lot lately in the media, locally.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Gomez, the county has a mental health crisis facility on Maple Street. It covers many services, including food stamps. They don't have any mental health crisis prevention for resident in-home visits and for people living downtown on the street and in the park, preventing the enjoyment for citizen use. The City of Greensboro has the behavioral health response team that has been specially trained to handle incidents involving persons with mental illness and those in crisis with care and expertise, ensuring that such persons receive appropriate responses in daily incidents. Downtown Greensboro, Inc. has an ambassadors program that helps the unsheltered and mentally ill on the street as well. Is it time for the county budget to include daily incident on the street services as well? As a county commissioner, would this be under your jurisdiction? What are your thoughts?
Well, I certainly think it's something that we should visit. I was thinking what you just said on the street service, you said, it brought to mind what you mentioned earlier about these officers that when there's an accident, it's not a police officer that goes out, it's the assistant that goes out, and we just experienced that personally with one of our kids who had an accident. I would definitely be in favor of having a team of officers, I'm not sure what term you would use, but that would go and help and be on the streets versus using officers themselves to see what's going on. I know that we address this on the High Point Human Relations Commission to make people aware of the services that are available in Guilford County, because a lot of times people don't even know what services are available or where they should go. And so we worked on a project where we put in the light bill. We were sending out flyers to let people know, hey, this is the service that's available to you. This is where you can go to receive help. And I think that helped. But I also think that we need to partner. I think it's interesting that a psychologist is the only specialty that treats the brain without really looking at it. And I've always been a big proponent in believing that we should, instead of just medicating people who have apparent mental health issues, that there should be an opportunity or some kind of program where they can get brain scans to see what's going on instead of just throwing pills at them. But as far as helping the people that have mental health issues, I definitely think that we should have a team that goes out, maybe not officers themselves because they're already stretched thin, but definitely create a group or a team that would service these people, in addition to providing them the resources that they need and pointing them in the right direction of where they need to go to get those services.
Thank you. Our final question will begin with you, Marissa Gomez. What differentiates you from your opponent? And if you would, talk about yourself.
Well, I've been married for 33 years to my husband. We've got 3 kids. Originally from Miami, my husband fled the Guatemalan Civil War, and that's how he got to this country as a legal immigrant. My parents fled communist Cuba, and that's how they got to this country, and I'm grateful that I was born in this nation. We're small business owners. I work in an office. I homeschooled one of our kids because of the failures of the public schools years ago. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be sitting next to Brandon, and that we can even do this in this country. Because if you look at places like Venezuela and Cuba, they don't have this opportunity. So the fact that we can even have these conversations, I'm so grateful for them, and it makes me really appreciate the country that we're in. So I'm a Christian, again, 3 kids, and I am running for commissioner because I want to give people like me a voice who maybe feel like they don't have a voice. And I may have gone to college late. I went as an adult. I got my degree in 2019, but that really only made me work even harder when I had to come up through the ranks and come up the corporate ladder, proving to people that I was just as smart as the person who had the degree. And I've always had to work harder than the guy next to me just to prove that. So I hope that you give me the opportunity to prove that to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Grayhill, the same question. What differentiates you from your opponent? And please talk about yourself.
First of all, thank you everyone for coming, as well as Temple Emmanuel for hosting this event. I was honored to be here tonight, and along with my opponent, sharing our ideas and our vision for Guilford County. Guilford County is my home. I was born and raised here. My friends from high school, they went off to college, they moved away. I chose to stay here in Guilford. This is my community. I love this community, and I'm proud to be a part of the economic growth that we've seen here in Guilford. And a lot of my friends are starting to move back here, and they've seen the growth here in Guilford. And just being a part of that, I also bring a new approach to the board. I'm the youngest person on the board. Also, I am LGBT, so the first LGBTQ person on the board, another voice and a seat at the table, more representative of our community. Also, I'm the incumbent, so that sets me apart as well. I've been a commissioner for a year now, and just the relationships I've built within our community with our local leaders as well as our constituents is something that I don't take lightly, and I would love the opportunity to continue to serve our community for a full term, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you all for coming.
That concludes our forum. Thank you very much.
So I'm going to close this up by thanking a few people. And weren't these candidates great? We asked some tough, long questions. So I just want to thank Bill O'Neill, who has been our moderator tonight, and let you know that he's retiring this year. So we will miss him sorely in the next election, which will be a big one for City Council. I'd also like to thank AAUW, the American Association of University Women, and I think there's a few that are sitting in the chamber. Would you stand up and just let's acknowledge them? They are doing great work, especially in STEM with young women from 4th to 9th grade. And we have 2 state presidents that are here, as well as local Greensboro branch presidents. So it's a terrific group. Look it up online. And I'd like to thank the Temple Emmanuel Social Action Committee. I think we have a few people that are still here from that committee. I don't know. They may be still outside. And we have our president here of the Temple, Andy Broad. Okay, thank you. And I'd like to thank the 2 women that helped. They were the brain power of this forum. One isn't with us here tonight, Heidi Fleshman, but at least we acknowledged you, Heidi, in the live streaming. And Mary Skanes, who is right there in the front here. We always have a very lively debate, being a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent. So, and writing the questions. So I'd like to just thank you all, and please remember, we're 49 days away from the election. Do not forget to go and vote. Tell everyone they need to vote. It's important in this election. And I'd like to thank Laura and all of the people here that are doing the live streaming, because last time I was told you didn't thank anybody. So I want to thank everyone one more time. And thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you so. Take care.